In the words of Brene Brown, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability, a term often linked with fear and uncertainty, is perceived in a whole new light in Brene Brown's groundbreaking book, Daring Greatly. According to Brown, vulnerability is not a pitfall, but a stepping stone. It's not an obstacle, but a pathway, not a weakness, but a strength. It's about showing up, being seen, and allowing ourselves to be genuinely and authentically ourselves, even when the outcome is uncertain. Brown encourages us to embrace our vulnerabilities. She invites us to dive in, to explore the depths of our fears, our uncertainties, our anxieties. She prompts us to venture into the uncharted territories of our hearts and minds, to have the audacity to face our truths, and to have the courage to share them with the world. Why? Because vulnerability is the bedrock of authenticity. It's the foundation upon which genuine connections are built. It's the cornerstone of trust, of understanding, of empathy. It's the soil from which courage sprouts, from which resilience blooms, from which hope grows. But let's be honest, embracing vulnerability is no easy feat. It's frightening to open ourselves up, to expose our raw, unfiltered selves to the world. It's terrifying to step into the arena without assurances, without guarantees. It's daunting to risk rejection, criticism, and failure. But that's exactly what makes vulnerability such a testament to our bravery. It's not about winning or losing, it's about having the courage to show up and be seen, even when the outcome is uncertain. It's about daring to be vulnerable and finding strength in that vulnerability. And here's the cherry on top. Vulnerability isn't just about personal growth. It's also the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. It's where new ideas are born, where boundaries are pushed, where paradigms are shifted. Vulnerability, as per Brown, is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Embrace it, live it, and let it fuel your journey to daring greatly. Brown writes, if we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. In our journey through life, shame is an unwelcome companion that often lurks in the shadows. It's a deeply personal experience, one that's tethered to our self-worth and identity. But here's the good news, we're not powerless against it. Brown introduces us to the concept of shame resilience, a strategy that helps us manage feelings of shame and prevent them from spiraling out of control. Think of shame as a wildfire. Left unchecked, it can consume us, leaving nothing but charred remains of our self-esteem. But shame resilience is like a fire break, a buffer that keeps the flames at bay. It involves acknowledging our shame, understanding its triggers, and most importantly, not letting it define us. Now here's where empathy comes into play. Empathy is the water that douses the flames of shame. It's the understanding nod, the comforting word, the gentle pat on the back that says, "You're not alone, I've been there too." When we share our feelings of shame with someone who responds with empathy, we're not just unburdening ourselves, we're also forging a connection, a shared understanding that helps us see we're not alone in our struggle. In a world that often seems hell-bent on highlighting our flaws and failures, empathy is a beacon of hope. It reassures us that it's okay to be imperfect, to stumble and fall. It reminds us that we're human, and that's perfectly all right. This isn't about denying or sugarcoating our mistakes. It's about accepting them, learning from them, and moving forward with a renewed sense of self-compassion. It's about realizing that our worth isn't tied to our shortcomings, but rather our ability to rise above them. In the fight against shame, empathy emerges as our most potent weapon. And when we arm ourselves with this powerful tool, we're not just cultivating shame resilience. We're also paving the way for deeper, more meaningful connections with others. We're daring greatly, in the truest sense of the term. In Brown's words, wholehearted living is about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. This statement, this concept, is a beacon of light in the fog of self-doubt, and it's one of the major lessons that resonates from her book, Daring Greatly. Wholehearted living is about embracing the totality of who we are, with all our strengths and weaknesses, triumphs and failures, perfections and imperfections. It's about acknowledging that we are enough, just as we are, and that our worthiness does not hinge on external validation or the attainment of some elusive ideal of perfection. Brown encourages us to live authentically, to be true to ourselves in all that we do. Authenticity is not about being perfect or conforming to society's expectations. It's about being real, being vulnerable, and embracing our unique individuality. It's about showing up and being seen for who we truly are, without the masks and pretenses that we often hide behind. In the journey towards wholehearted living, our imperfections are not obstacles, but opportunities. They are part of our unique story, and they make us who we are. Instead of denying or hiding them, Brene urges us to embrace them, to see them as integral parts of our being. Self-compassion and acceptance are at the heart of wholehearted living. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend. It's about letting go of self-judgment and self-criticism and instead recognizing that we are human, and like all humans, we are beautifully flawed. Brene's vision of wholehearted living also involves embracing vulnerability, cultivating shame resilience, and daring greatly. It's about having the courage to be imperfect, the compassion to be kind to ourselves, and the connection that comes from authenticity. Wholehearted living, then, becomes a journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance. It's a journey that begins with embracing our worthiness, and it unfolds as we learn to live with authenticity, compassion, and acceptance. It's a journey that is not always easy, but it's one that is profoundly rewarding, for it leads us to a life lived fully, bravely, and wholeheartedly. Brene asserts, when we spend our lives waiting until we're perfect or bulletproof before we walk into the arena, we ultimately sacrifice relationships and opportunities that may not be recoverable. This powerful statement forms the backbone of Brene Brown's transformative book, Daring Greatly. It's about the courage to embrace our vulnerabilities, to risk exposure and potential failure, and to step into the arena of life, even when we're not entirely sure of the outcome. The essence of daring greatly is not about achieving perfection or becoming invulnerable. Rather, it's about wholehearted engagement with our lives, in all their messy, unpredictable, and beautiful complexity. It's about understanding that our vulnerabilities are not weaknesses to be hidden away, but integral parts of our humanity that connect us to others. Brene encourages us to step out of our comfort zones, to take risks, and to embrace the inevitable failures and setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning. It's about recognizing that it's better to have tried and failed than never to have tried at all. In Daring Greatly, we challenge the narrative of perfectionism that so often holds us back. We reject the fear of making mistakes, of not being good enough, and instead we lean into the discomfort, knowing that this is where true growth happens. We understand that it's not about the destination but the journey and the lessons we learn along the way. To dare greatly is to show up, to be seen, to risk failure, and to keep going even when the going gets tough. It's about embracing our imperfections, our quirks, our unique strengths, and our potential. It's about living our lives authentically, courageously, and with purpose. It's a call to action, a challenge to each of us to step into the arena of our lives with courage, with vulnerability, and with the willingness to dare greatly. Because, as Brene reminds us, it's not the critic who counts, but the man or woman in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, but who, at the best, knows the triumph of high achievement. In Daring Greatly, we embrace the courage to be vulnerable, to be imperfect, and to be ourselves.